Welcome to the Week in Review, the show that brings you up to date on the week that was. Here are the top stories. RBI hikes rates by 50 basis points. Oil business fuels Reliance Industries' profits. And the government releases a draft of its new land acquisition bill. First off, the Reserve Bank surprised everyone from investors to corporate leaders on Tuesday with a higher than anticipated interest rate hike. What's more, it made it clear the hawkish monetary stance would continue until inflation eased. RBI hiked the repo, which is its short-term lending rate, by 50 basis points to 8%, and the reverse repo, the rate at which it drains excess liquidity, is now at 7%. The Reserve Bank's latest tightening is based on expectations of continued growth that's accompanied by rising inflation. RBI maintained its projection for GDP growth at 8%, but raised its baseline projection for inflation from 6+% to 7%. Moving on, the rules for mergers and acquisition are about to undergo a makeover. On Thursday, markets regulator SEBI approved key recommendations of its Takeover Regulations Advisory Committee. Most importantly, SEBI said companies can buy up to 25% of a target firm without making an open offer instead of the old 15% threshold, but SEBI also increased the minimum open offer size from 20% to 26%, a move that could give more options to smaller investors. SEBI's other moves include ending the so-called non-compete fees that buyers pay promoters to stop them from setting up new rival businesses. But while the scrapping of the fee will allow all shareholders to exit at the same price, critics say it will also increase the costs of takeovers because valuations could go up. Speaking of takeovers, the Competition Commission of India has issued its very first order on mergers and acquisitions since it began overseeing them last year. On Tuesday, it cleared RIL's bid to buy a stake in Bharti AXA Life and General Insurance companies. CCI said it examined the documents involved and concluded the deal wasn't likely to stifle competition. Switching to earnings, Reliance Industries has posted its highest ever rise in quarterly profits while still lagging behind street estimates. India's biggest company reported a 16.7% climb in first quarter profit to 5,661 crores, and revenue went up 37.2% to 83,689. Meanwhile, the numbers from RIL's hydrocarbons businesses was mixed. While its operations at its massive oil refinery in Jamnagar produced profits, the gas business didn't do as well. The firm's gross refining margins rose to $10.3 per barrel from $7.3 in the year-ago period. But gas output from RIL's flagship KG D6 field dropped during the quarter by 18% to 156.2 billion cubic feet. The KG D6 block was once among RIL's most lucrative assets, but output there has fallen in recent times. Earlier, the government approved an RIL stake sale to energy firm BP, a deal that RIL hopes will give it the technology needed to boost production at KG-D6. Also in earnings, ICICI Bank's first quarter numbers have fallen behind most expectations, though not by a wide margin. The country's biggest private sector lender said it managed to increase its income and cut provisioning during the 3-month period. Net profit rose 30% to 1,333 crores, and net interest income went up 21% to 2,411. Significantly, the bank's net interest margin increased to 2.6% from 2.5% in the year-ago period. In another development this week, the government has moved a step closer to finalizing a bill on one of the most controversial issues facing India today. Late on Friday, it released a draft of its new land acquisition bill. As per the draft, the urgency clause can only be invoked during emergencies or for national security. Also, there will be 3 separate compensation packages. It will be based on the market value of land, value of assets attached to the land, and 100% of total compensation. And here are some stories in brief. The Supreme Court has banned all mining in Karnataka's Bellary district. On Friday, the court's forest bench said there should be no more excavation at the site pending further orders. The order applies to some 100 mining leases in the area. Of these, 45 have already been suspended earlier. The Election Commission's new prototype voting machines have failed in a nationwide test. The Commission has admitted the new paper trail voting machines had reported significant discrepancies. Election authorities conducted mock polls at 5 locations around India to test the new machines. The Food Ministry is opposing moves to allow the export of wheat. Food Minister K.V. Thomas has said excess wheat grain should instead be distributed among the poor. Indian wheat is currently sold at rates that are higher than international prices. Air India has managed to evade a looming loan crisis. On Thursday, the Ministry of Finance gave the airline 250 crores so it could pay salaries and prevent its loans from being classified as non-performing assets. The money will be made part of a 1,200 crore equity infusion Air India is scheduled to get from the government. And that's all we have for you. Thanks for watching.